Today back with us, we have Brother Ananda Fong to share with us on the reflection on speech in our cultivation. So over to you now, Brother Ananda.
Thank you, Brother Terence and the Unison Chanting team for the earlier puja. A short puja. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. As Brother Terence has kindly introduced the topic of today's sharing, reflections on speech in our cultivation. Well, we have to bear in mind what is the purpose of speech in our cultivation. What do you gain from it? Well, we always have to come back to why the Buddha shared what he shared or what he discovered underneath the Bodhi tree. And this is revealed when the Buddha dispatched the first 60 arahats, as recorded in the Mahavagga in the Vinaya Pitaka. The Buddha said, "Go monks on tour for the benefit of the common folk, the happiness of the common folk, out of compassion for the world, the welfare, the benefit, the happiness of gods and human beings." So clearly what the Buddha has shared from his discoveries underneath the Bodhi tree is for our benefit, for our happiness, for our welfare. And how do we do that? Well, the Buddha also in other discourses, in this case, the Ita Sutta, talking about what is welcome or what is desirable, what we want in life, and so on. Well, we always say that we want long life, we want beauty or handsomeness, happiness, we want fame, and ultimately rebirth in heaven. But the Buddha also continues that of these 5 things, House Lord, the Buddha does not teach that they are to be obtained through prayer, nor through wishing. That we have to bear that in mind very well. So the Buddha continues, if one could obtain them through prayer or through wishing, who would not obtain them? Now, for the noble disciple, House Lord, who wishes to have long life, beauty, happiness, fame, and rebirth in heaven, it is not proper that he should pray for these and partake delight in doing so. But he should follow a way of life that is conducive to long life, beauty, happiness, fame, and rebirth in heaven. So the key thing we have to bear in mind is that we need to follow a way of life. We have to do something. We cannot just be praying and just mere wishing. So follow a way of life means developing or changing what we are doing now to a proper way of life that's conducive and following the laws of the universe to obtain what we want. And this is clearly mentioned in the path to happiness, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. And clearly it is a path. Path is not to be looked on, it has to be treaded upon. We have to walk on the path to get from where we are right now to a destination. And that destination is ennobling. It ennobles us. And the factors along this path are eightfold. Not just 8, not noble 8 path, but eightfold, because all the factors, all 8 factors in it, reinforces each other, support each other, enables each of the factors there. So all 8 are needed. You cannot pick and choose what you want to practice. Like for instance, right now in the commercial world, we have a lot of mindfulness gurus and programs and so on, but not taking right understanding and right view into account. That is not the Buddha's path. Just because you're practicing mindfulness, it doesn't mean you're practicing what the Buddha taught, because it lacks understanding and right view according to the Noble Eightfold Path. So all 8 are needed. But today's sharing, we are talking about speech, perfect speech or right speech. Now, right through the Noble Eightfold Path, and in many, many lectures, advices given by the Buddha to monastics as well as lay people, you find these two terms, that the suttas are designed or structured in such a way that the Buddha advises one to refrain from certain things and to cultivate certain things. So we have to let go of not so good things, and we have to cultivate something which we have not embodied within ourselves. So what did the Buddha ask us to refrain from? Refrain from what is unwholesome. And what is cultivation? Be steadfast in good qualities. So we have to identify from our character, from our actions of body, speech, and mind. We have to let go, stop doing, and don't start those things which are unwholesome. And whatever good qualities we are doing, we have to be steadfast. It means continue doing and bring it to a higher level. And those good qualities we have not started doing, which is not part of our habits or part of our character, our daily things, we have to learn how to do and bring it up to a higher level. So these two characteristics of the path, in this case, recorded from the Mangala Sutta, a sutta on blessing. And we all want blessings in life. Now, in the Parabhava Sutta, a sutta on downfall, which is direct opposite of the Mangala Sutta. Mangala Sutta is to enable us to have blessings. Parabhava is a sutta on what makes us fall in life, downfall. So in this particular sutta, it reads, at one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anatta Pindika's monastery. Then, late at night, a glorious deity, a deva, lighting up the entire Jeta's Grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed and stood on one side. Now, the pictures at the bottom show what is the remnants of this Jetavana monastery today. Basically, the stone foundations. The upper structures have already long gone. After all, this was made something like 2,500 years ago. So the sutta continues. Standing to one side, that deity addressed the Buddha in verse. We asked Gautama about a man's downfall. We have come to ask you, sir, what leads to downfall? And the Buddha says, for the first in the long list of aspects that makes us downfall. It is easy to know success, and downfall is just as easy. One who loves the teaching succeeds, but a hater of the teaching meets their downfall. Now, what was the Buddha referring to? Teaching. Well, at the earlier starting, I was talking about the Buddha's teaching being shared out of compassion so that we can have welfare, we can have happiness. So if that teaching is, someone doesn't like that teaching, which means you're going against that, of course, that will lead to one's downfall. So if you were to follow the Buddha's teaching, which is for our benefit, for our happiness, then of course it leads to success and blessing. So, and the Devas replied, we get what you're saying. This is the first downfall. Tell us the second, blessed one. What leads to downfall? And the sutta continues with a list in the things that causes one who practices those to have downfall, to make us suffer in life and the hereafter. Jumping straight to the aspect of today's topic, downfall number 5. The Buddha says, he deceives with lies, ascetics and Brahmins and other renunciates, and that leads to his downfall. Clearly, the issue the Buddha is saying is, he deceives with lies, telling those things which are not true. Now, interestingly, the Buddha did not say that if you were to lie to Buddhist monks. No, the Buddha didn't say that. The Buddha said, if a person lies to ascetics and Brahmins, Brahmins meaning the Brahmin, those in the Brahmin caste, those in the priestly, who may not be Buddhist, the ascetics may not be Buddhist, and other renunciates, who also may not be Buddhist. So it covers the whole spectrum of renunciants who are practicing following the development of truthfulness and avoidance of lies. Whether they are Buddhist or non-Buddhist, then if a person deceives with lies, that will lead to that person's downfall. So this is number 5 in the long list of downfall listed in this particular sutta. And the sutta continues, which I will not go through, but you are welcome to read the Parabhava Sutta found in the Sutta Nipata chapter number 1, sutta number 6. Now, moving on, typically we will find that any sharing regarding perfect speech in the Noble Eightfold Path called Sama Vacha. Sama meaning perfect or complete or right. Vacha meaning speech. Now, perfect speech, as given in Noble Eightfold Path, typically covers the abstention from lying, tale-bearing, harsh speech, and foolish babble or gossiping. So these are the typical listings you will find in any presentation regarding Sama Vacha. Now, in the Saliyaka Sutta, it's a sutta involving lay people from in the Kosala country, in the township of Sala, asking the Buddha some questions. And the Buddha gave a reply. Householders, there are 3 kinds of bodily conduct in accordance with the Dhamma, righteous conduct. 4 kinds of verbal conduct in accordance with the Dhamma, righteous conduct. 3 kinds of mental conduct in accordance with the Dhamma, righteous conduct. Now, interestingly, I'm only providing excerpts from this particular sutta, but do read Saliyaka Sutta from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 41. The sutta starts off with questions from these lay people to the Buddha regarding how should one conduct themselves and why are there inequalities in life, why people are born clever, some stupid, some ugly, some are beautiful, and so on. And why are there so many inequalities? And the Buddha lists out this list of conduct. And in many suttas, the Buddha will start off, and in this particular one too, the Buddha starts off with kinds of bodily conduct, verbal conduct, and mental conduct not in accordance with the Dhamma, righteous conduct, which produces trouble. And then the Buddha continues with the same category, but those of bodily conduct, of verbal conduct, and mental conduct in accordance with the Dhamma, righteous conduct, shown as displayed here in this particular page. So notice 3 of body, 4 of verbal, 3 of mental. 3, 4, 3 adds up to the first portion of sutta is 10 demeritorious actions, means 10 things which you do that are not meritorious. And in this particular page, the Buddha is talking about 10 bodily, verbal, and mental conducts which are meritorious. So in a way, 10 meritorious deeds according to this particular sutta. So here is the list again, and we go through the whole list of conduct, which is in accordance with Dhamma, righteous conduct. So that of bodily conduct, that we should abandon, abstain from killing living beings, abandoning and abstaining from taking what is not given, abandoning and abstaining from misconduct in sexual desires. And of course, the topic of today is that of speech, of verbal conduct, the 4 that we should avoid: abandoning and abstaining from false speech or lying, abandoning and abstaining from malicious speech. But what is malicious speech? Malicious speech is speech that divides groups of people. So if you abstain and abandon malicious speech, you are the reunited of those who have been divided and a promoter of friendships. Then abandoning and abstaining from harsh speech, abandoning and abstaining from gossips. And of that, of the mental conduct, 3 kinds of actions by mental conduct that we should abandon: covetousness. Covetous means extreme greed. Have no mind of ill will, and that we should develop right view. So these make up the 10 actions of body, speech, and mind in accordance with the Dhamma, righteous conduct. Now the Buddha elaborates what he means by the aspect of speech. Here someone speaks falsehood when summoned to a court or to a royal family's presence and questioned as a witness does. Tell what you know. Then not knowing, he says, I know. Or knowing, he says, I do not know. Not seeing, he says, I see. Or seeing, he says, I do not see. So in full awareness, he speaks falsehood of his for his own ends or for another's ends. And the picture on the right is a favorite among children and should be for adults also, that tells the same story. Those who speak falsehood. And the Buddha continues, here someone speaks maliciously. He is a repeater elsewhere of what is heard here for the purpose of causing division from these. And he is thus a divider of the united, a creator of divisions who enjoys discord. He is a speaker of words that create discord. And speaking harshly, he utters such words as are rough, hard, hurtful to others, censorious of others, bordering on anger, unconducive to concentration. And a gossiper, as one who tells what is unseasonable, that which is not fact, that which is not good, that which is not the Dhamma, and not worth recording, which is and unconnected with good. Now, elsewhere in the large body of teachings or sharings by the Buddha from his 45 years of teaching, in this case, Dhammapada verses 176, 246, and 247. For a liar who has violated the one law of truthfulness, who holds in scorn the hereafter, there is no evil that he cannot do. This is very dangerous. A person who lies can do whatever. There's no evil that he cannot do. So he cannot stoop. He will not stop at just mere lying. He can also destroy life and so on. So one who destroys life, utters lies, takes what is not given, goes to another man's wife, and is addicted to intoxicating drinks, such a man digs up his own root even in this world. Now, in this particular sutta from the Samyutta Nikaya, chapter number 55, sutta number 7, the Velu Davareya Sutta, the people of the bamboo gate. In this sutta, the Buddha let us go through the various reflections that we should undertake when we reflect over these aspects of speech. A noble disciple reflects, if someone were to distort my meaning by lying, I wouldn't like it. But if I were to distort someone else's meaning by lying, they wouldn't like it either. The thing that is disliked by me is also disliked by someone else. Since I dislike this thing, how can I inflict it on others? So this is the aspect of being compassionate that we don't do on others, that we don't want them to do upon us. So reflecting in this way, they give up lying themselves, and they encourage others to give up lying, praising the giving up and praising the giving up of lying. So their behavior is purified in 3 points. So not that they just give up lying, but they encourage others to give up lying, and they praise the action of giving up of lying too. So these are the 3 additional aspects we have to take into account. And in divisive speech, if someone were to break me up from my friends by divisive speech, I wouldn't like it. But if I were to break someone else from their friends by divisive speech, they wouldn't like it either. So the thing that is disliked by me is also disliked by others. So since I dislike this thing, how can I inflict it on others? So reflecting in this way, they give up divisive speech themselves, and they encourage others to give up divisive speech. And they also praise the giving up of divisive speech to others. So their verbal behavior is purified in 3 points. Now, if someone were to attack me with harsh speech, I wouldn't like it. But if I were to attack me with harsh speech, they wouldn't like it either. The thing that is disliked by me is also disliked by someone else. Since I dislike this, how can I inflict it on others? So similarly reflecting, so they will give up harsh speech themselves, They also encourage others to give up harsh speech. They also praise the giving up of harsh speech. So their behavior is purified in these 3 points. And continuing, if someone were to annoy me by talking silliness and nonsense, I wouldn't like it. But if I were to annoy by talking silliness and nonsense, they wouldn't like it either. The thing that is disliked by me is also disliked by someone else. Since I dislike this thing, how can I inflict it on others? So reflecting thus, they will give up talking nonsense themselves, and they encourage others to give up talking nonsense. And they praise the giving up of talking nonsense. So their behavior is purified in these 3 points. Now, this sutta is particularly useful. It goes through the 10 aspects, but importantly, it also talks about the upper portion of avoidance of killing living beings, of stealing and sexual misconduct. So this is useful for those who want to practice their 5 precepts and expand on the aspect of cultivating right speech. Now, moving on to this particular sutta, Abhaya or Abhaya Rajakumara Sutta. Frequently, we do internet searches. We find the sutta is given the abbreviated name, Abhaya. Now, Abhaya is made up of 2 words. Bhaya, B-H-A-Y-A, means fear. Abhaya means fearless. But the longer name, Abhaya Rajakumara, this is made up of 4 words, Bhaya and A in front. And then you have Raja, Raja meaning the king. Kumara means a young. So Raja Kumara is often referred to as a prince. So Abhaya Raja Kumara just simply means young prince fearless. So this particular sutta referring to Prince Abhaya is found in Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 58. This is an interesting sutta regarding an aspect of right speech, but more importantly, the starting portion, as I will soon describe, talks about people who try to, shall we say, sabotage the Buddha or corner the Buddha in debate. So, Evang Me Sutta. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha. Rajagaha is the capital of the Magadha kingdom. Now, in the bamboo grove, the squirrels feeding ground. Then Prince Abhaya went up to the Jain ascetic of the Natika clan, bowed and sat down to one side. Now, Prince Abhaya at that time, when he was approaching the Jain ascetic, was not a follower of the Buddha. In fact, he was a follower of the Jains. Now, Jainism, there were many religions excluding Brahmanism. There was no Hinduism during the Buddha's time. There was Brahmanism, the religion of the masses. But there were other well-known teachers also teaching their own things. So there were 6 contemporary teachers of the Buddha, and one of them was Jainism, which was founded by Niganta Nataputta. Of all the 6 contemporary religions, only Buddhism and Jainism has survived till the 20th and 21st century. So today you can still find Jain practices in India and even in Malaysia. Now, Jain ascetic of the Natika clan. So the Jain Natika said to this Prince Abhaya, "Come, Prince, refute the ascetic Gotama's doctrine. Then you will get a good reputation." That Prince Abhaya refuted the doctrine of the ascetic Gotama, who is so mighty and powerful. So by that time, the Buddha's reputation was moving very wide, and there was a lot of respect for the Buddha. So there were other sects who were not happy, or rather jealous with the Buddha's fame, and they would try to find ways, in this particular case, to try to upend the Buddha. So Jain Natika suggested to him that if you can refute ascetic Gotama's doctrine, that the Prince Abhaya or whoever who can refute the Buddha's doctrine would become famous, because the Buddha was so great already, and if you can refute and win in debate, then the Buddha will be belittled, and whoever is the refuter, successful refuter, would become famous. So Prince Abhaya mentioned, "But sir, how am I to do this?" Now here, Prince, go to the ascetic Gotama and say to him, "Sir, might the realized one or the Buddha utter speech that is disliked by others? And when he's asked this, if he answers, notice I put the ... I will not go through the whole sutta for the more details of the ways in which this conversation between 𝙤𝙪𝙤 and Prince Abhaya, or rather hatching a plan, will go on. Please read the sutta from Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 58. Now, at the bottom paragraph, when you put this dilemma to him, the Buddha wouldn't be able to either spit it out or swallow it down. He will be like a man with an iron cross stuck in his throat, and so on. So here it is 𝙤𝙪𝙤 was suggesting to Prince Abhaya, who came up with an idea to design a certain what you call debate question, what I call a knotted question. That's why the picture on the right hand side of this slide. A knotted question is a design question in which it is designed to catch a person. When the person asks you a question, if you say yes, you get into trouble. You say no, you get in trouble. You say you do not know, you get into trouble. And any other way you attempt to say, at least the designer hopes that whatever answers you give, you will get into trouble. And therefore, the questioner will reign supreme. This is the intent. So 𝙤𝙪𝙤 devised a knotted question for Prince Abhaya to ask the Buddha, in that attempt to catch the Buddha, and so that to show that the Buddha will be unsuccessful in such a conversation or debate. And what happened? Prince Abhaya proceeded with the plan, invited the Buddha and his congregation, the Sangha members, to his house for dana. And Prince Abhaya, of course, in this particular aspect, is not a private dana. He wanted a lot of people there so that they can bear witness to his victory in refuting asceticism. So he invited a large portion of the Rajagaha to come to his house to witness the dana as well as his triumph in refuting in refuting the Buddhas in this questioning. So what happened? The dana proceeded very well. The Buddha and the Sangha members had a meal, and after the meal, after the dana, Prince Abhaya asked this question. Now, what happened is quite interesting. The Buddha, in short, did not fall for this knotted question. And the Buddha used the situation at that time during the dana, in which case this Prince Abhaya had the young child sitting on his lap, and using the young child as an example to share the Dhamma, to analyze the question in which Prince Abhaya had forwarded to the Buddha. And soon Prince Abhaya admitted his failure in upending the Buddha with this knotted question. Obviously, the knotted question was not well conceived, and the Buddha was turning the ground and using it to teach a point or two regarding speech. So in this page, the Buddha says, in the same way, Prince, the Buddha does not utter speech that he knows to be untrue, false, pointless, and which is disliked by others. The Buddha does not utter speech that he knows to be true, correct, but which is harmful and is disliked by others. And number 3, notice I've underlined this. The Buddha knows the right time so as to explain what he knows to be true, correct, and beneficial, but which is disliked by others. So even though it is disliked by others, but the right time, it is true, it is correct and beneficial, the Buddha will still utter it. Number 4, the Buddha does not utter speech that he knows to be untrue, false, pointless, but which is liked by others. And number 5, the Buddha does not utter speech that he knows to be true and correct, but which is harmful, even if it is liked by others. And number 6, the Buddha knows the right time to speak so as to explain what he knows to be true, correct, and beneficial, and which is liked by others. Notice number 3 and number 6 type of conversation the Buddha will utter. Number 3 is something which is disliked by others, but is true, correct, and beneficial, and it's also the right time to speak. Whereas number 6, all things are good. The right time to speak, it is true, correct, beneficial, and liked by others. So, and the Buddha continues. Why is that? Because the Buddha has compassion for sentient beings. Okay, it's an iteration of 6. So these are the 6 kinds of ways in which the Buddha will react to speech. Now, in summarizing the 6 into a table, the criteria for deciding what is worth saying. This particular table tells you, notice number 3 and number 6 again, right across the row in the colored green or shaded green, which means the Buddha will speak. So in number 3, although the content is not agreeable, it's not liked, but it is the proper time, but the content is factual or correct, true and beneficial, the Buddha will still speak it at the proper time. And number 6, all factors are yes, and the Buddha will definitely speak it at the right time. So towards the end of this teaching or attempted refuting of the Buddha, Prince Abhaya said, when he had spoken, Prince Abhaya said to the Buddha, "Excellent sir, excellent. From this day forth, may Master Gotama remember me as the lay follower for life." So which means Prince Abhaya invited the Buddha as a Jain, intending to refute the Buddha in debate, but the Buddha used the circumstances to point out certain qualities, certain aspects of speech that we should be very careful of. But in this case, the Buddha will only speak the number 3 and number 6 type of conversations and use it to educate and enlighten Prince Abhaya. And which at the end of it, Prince Abhaya converted from a Jain to become the Buddha's follower. Now moving on to the Patama Katavatu Sutta. Now Katavatu, Kata is a conversation or discussion. So what kind of topics do we want to talk about? So in this particular sutta, Evame Sutang, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jetha's Grove, Ananda Pindika's monastery. So this is back at Jetavana monastery. And the Buddha came across a group of monks who were sitting down and they were talking to each other, all kinds of topics. And the Buddha commented on the kind of topics the monks, the monastics were talking to each other. So there are monks, these 10 topics of discussion. Now, do note that although this advice is the Buddha is teaching the monks, we can learn something about what we should talk about also, even though we are not monks, we are just the lay people. So 10 topics of discussion. What 10? The Buddha mentioned, talk about fewness of wishes, contentment, seclusion, aloofness, arousing energy, ethics or virtue, immersion or concentration. We should talk about wisdom, discernment, freedom and release, and the knowledge and vision of freedom. Notice on alongside the English, I have included the Pali for those who are more familiar. I have because the Pali would give a deeper understanding for those who are familiar with the Pali. So number 6, we're talking about Sila Kata, talk on morality, talk on virtue. And number 7, concentration or immersion. Samadhi Kata. Kata means a discussion or conversation regarding concentration or meditation in concentration. And number 8, talk about discernment or wisdom. Panya Kata, talk on wisdom, talk on things which are very discerning. And number 9, Vimutti. Vimutti is freedom or release, talk on freedom. And number 10, Vimutti Jnana Dasana Kata. Now, Jnana Dasana is knowledge and vision. In the end, since Vimutti is there, knowledge and vision of freedom. So these are the aspects that for lay people, as more so for monks, but for lay people, we should be curtail what we talk about. Otherwise, everything else will be mere babble, foolish babble also. Now, these are the 10 topics of discussion, the Buddha said. Monks, if you bring up these topics of conversation again and again, then your glory could surpass even the sun and moon, so mighty and powerful, let alone the wonders of other religions. So that was the end of this particular advice the Buddha gave to the group of monks who were talking nonsense among themselves while waiting for Dhamma talk. So the Buddha advised that we should go over these topics of conversation again and again. We should practice. Practice always requires us to repeat ourselves, which means try and try and try again. Now, this is a poster I have designed following a different translator, topics of conversation. So reading through, which is the same sutta, there are these 10 topics of proper conversation. What 10? Talk on modesty, on contentment, on seclusion, on non-entanglement, on arousing persistence, on virtue, on concentration, on discernment, on release, and on the knowledge and vision of release. These are the 10 topics of conversation. If you were to engage repeatedly in these 10 topics of conversation, you would outshine even the sun and moon. So mighty, so powerful, to say nothing of the wonders of other sects. So we have to be very careful of what we speak, as given in the earlier suttas. And in this particular sutta, the Buddha advises what we should talk about. Now, talking is assumed to be almost always verbal. But nowadays, with social media, we have a lot of texting. In another way, a kind of talking, but typing into a text. Okay, and very often, and you can see many posters here, many posters are familiar. We often, people post into groups via WhatsApp, via Telegram, via Signal, and whatever other, into Facebook, into websites, all kinds of posters. Notice all of these have one thing in common. They have been stamped with a red color word called FAKE. They are fake. Why? There have been groups of Buddhists who have dedicated themselves to verify whether these are actually the words of the Buddha or not. And they have been judged as fake. So in a way, if we share this without checking, that means when we receive a poster supposedly to be a quote by the Buddha, by a quote means at the end of whatever is said, they put dash Buddha, implying that it's from the Buddha or Gautama the Buddha, or sometimes the word Buddha is embedded into the so-called alleged quote, and then we think is, oh, sounds good, then we forward it. Then we become a party. We are guilty of misrepresenting the Buddha because we are sharing fake Buddha quotes. So the best thing is, if you do not know if they are actually true or fake, you have not bothered or have not done work on verifying whether they are true Buddha quotes, stop sharing. Let it die with you is the best. But if you know that they are fake, then you should tell the sender that they are sending fake Buddha quotes. And so it is in the interest of right speech that we should cultivate this aspect. We should stop people from sending fake Buddha quotes, and we should stop fake Buddha quotes from being forwarded by ourselves to other people. In yet other suttas, which I didn't include in this morning sharing, sharing this kind of or misrepresenting what the Buddha said also kills or weakens the Buddha Sasana. Why? It's actually promoting Dhamma, and what happens? The Buddha Sasana will get weaker and disappear in the long term. So if that is not your intent, please do not forward or share or even post any quotes which you are not sure that they are actually from the Buddhas, from the Tipitaka. Okay, this is very, very important. And some people say, oh, the Buddha, surely he won't talk about all this. Any good sounding quotes should be people should be happy about it. But in the Ābhasita Sutta, the Buddha had a thing to say about people who misrepresent him, who slander him by saying that the Buddha said so. So in this sutta, the Buddha says, monks, these two misrepresent the Buddha. What two? One who explains what was not spoken by the Buddha as spoken by him, and one who explains what was spoken by the Buddha as not spoken by him. Thus, these two misrepresent the Buddha. And the bottom paragraph, these two don't misrepresent the Buddha. What two? One who explains what was not spoken by the Buddha as not spoken by him, and one who explains what was spoken by the Buddha as spoken by him. So these two don't misrepresent the Buddha. So for those people who say that the Buddha won't bother about all these wise words, well, this sutta refutes that also. So please do not misrepresent the Buddha. If you are not sure, do not forward, do not create, do not assume. Please check and verify. Okay, so you, by doing that, you prolong the Buddha Sasana and you are attempting to practice right speech, which is important for our cultivation. Now, in practicing the Dhamma, so a wise person seeing his own good, steadfast, secures confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Secures confidence. Here, I changed the word. The Pali word is saddha. Saddha means having confidence. In this case, saddha towards the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So one who practices the Buddha in thought, word, and deed receives praise here on earth, and after that rejoices in heaven. Why? After all, I started off by saying, what is the use of Buddhism? So the Buddha taught it out of compassion for the world, for all fellow beings who have been suffering incalculable in samsara. It is out of compassion and it's for our welfare and happiness. So as long as you practice the Dhamma, which is aimed at supporting us, having our welfare in mind, having our happiness in mind, what happens when we practice it in thought, word, and deed? We are seen by those around us being what they call wholesome beings, good beings, and because of that, we will receive praise here on earth, okay, by those who see how we behave, what our characters are, and so on. So we are worthy, good beings. Number two, while we are practicing this, we also generate wholesome karmic energies, which support us in our journey through samsara. And because of that, we have been cultivating Dhamma, which supports us. After death, our karma and our last thought and so on projects us to a heavenly or what they call a happier environment. So here, hence the last portion of the verse, after death rejoices in heaven, because you have been practicing the Dhamma, it pushes up towards heaven. And although the sutta ends in this particular portion, wholesome karma also supports our journey towards Nibbana, our journey, our efforts to practice the Noble Eightfold Path towards attaining final release, Nibbana. So that is the use of karma. So you receive praise on earth, we also rejoice after passing away in heaven. And furthermore, it actually assists us to attain the final release. And finally, in summarizing what the Buddha taught, in Dhammapada verse 183, Sabba papasa akaranang kusalasa upasampada satchitta paridapana etang buddhana sasana. That we should avoid all kinds of evil, that we should do good, we should purify our mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. Sat Dhammo Jirang Titatu, may the good doctrine long endure. Sabbe Satta Sukhi Hontu, may all beings be happy. That's the end of this morning sharing. Back to you, Brother Terence.
Thank you, Brother Ananda, for today's nice sharing. Now we have passed our time wholesomely in this 1 hour of sharing. Now let us dedicate some merits to all beings this being the last leg of this month's this year's Chengbeng, as dedicate all the merits to all our departed relatives, from those who we know and to those we do not know. Akasata Jabummata Devanaga Mahittika Punyang Tam Anumoditwa Chiram Rakkantu Loka Sasanang Etawata Amhehi Sampadang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Sabbe Bhuta Sabbe Sattha Anumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Idang me nyati nang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Idang me nyati nang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo Idang me nyati nang hotu Sukhita hontu nyatayo. And aspirations. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavani panapatiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for watching. For other videos, please go to our Facebook or the YouTube link.